My name is Michael Fort, and I am the Chief Judge of the Rhode Island Family Court. After 35 years on the bench, I have been witness to the struggles that adults have in setting aside the pain and anger they suffer during the breakup of a relationship and the oftentimes conscious and unconscious actions parents can take that leave their children severely and sometimes permanently psychologically damaged. Your relationship with your partner will change, but it will not end. This important reality will require parents to put their emotions, their differences and disputes on the back burner and find some way to either work together or at least coexist in a way that will minimize the trauma of living a new lifestyle that their children neither asked for or agreed to. It is our hope that by hearing the testimony of judges, experts, and children that have seen and lived through the trauma of dealing with these difficult life experiences, that you will understand how your actions can affect the lives of the children we know you love and want to protect.
The main difficulty was just being in the middle of my parents' drama and their own issues. They didn't keep it between themselves, and I wish that they would have spoken together in private instead of dragging, me, and I have 3 other younger siblings into the mix. I just think that parents should know that your children they should be your priority, and you shouldn't be arguing in front of them or saying bad things about the other parent to them, because it's not going to be good for them emotionally.
Me and my brother, we had this staircase that leads right up to the living room, and we would just sit there and watch them from around the corner when they were yelling at each other.
Whenever parents are separating, it's really a significant time of change in not only the parents' lives, but the children's lives. And when we talk about change, it brings a lot of apprehension, uncertainty, and separation really is about loss and sadness. What we want to do as parents that love kids, and even though you have differences and you're separating, it's really finding that commonality and trying very hard to stay united in your efforts to co-parent your children, because the goal is to have emotionally healthy children throughout their lifetime.
The parties that appear before the family courts may have different ethnic backgrounds, nationalities, and just have different cultural norms and ways of doing things. So I think it's important to look at what was the norm for this family before the separation. A lot of families that I deal with where it's not, where it was normal for 3 kids to be sharing a bedroom. I think it's important for the court to not assume that a certain way of doing things is the right way.
What I have experienced in the last 30-something years of being a clinician and also in my work as a divorce mediator, regardless of what age we're talking about, when parents divorce, or even if it's not a marriage union per se, but it's a committed long-term relationship that breaks up, it rocks the boat in which a child finds himself or herself, regardless of age. Little kids, bigger kids, adult children, children of all ages want their parents to be the parent, and they don't want to get put in the middle between warring parents, and they want to be spared the details. Divorce is a catastrophic life event, and it's incredibly disruptive, and at every age it has repercussions.
Quick. 12 years old, I was raising my brother. He had a heart attack at 15.
I honestly didn't realize that it affected me so much. And then you grow up and you realize it did.
If parents could just understand that children do not have the ability to process conflict the way that adults do. Everything that they hear about one parent or the other is going to impact them, whether it's good or it's bad, and the way that they look at themselves, because they are a product of both parents. Everything that they're exposed to during this really emotional time, they're going to hold on to it, and without proper supports, these are lifelong consequences for them, and more importantly for their children. So understanding the impact that you have on your child during this process, not just you as a person, or you take them to school and you give them all the things they need, but also just in the way that you're able to deal with your conflict as an adult with their other parent is very important.
Children are hardwired to love both parents. They have a need to love both parents. As he or she moves from home to home in the process of normal visitation, he has to become a whole different child when he moves from mom's house to dad's house or vice versa. Imagine having to switch who you are every other week or twice a week. It's really difficult. So when you're with whatever parent, we'll call them parent A, and you're confronted with, in 2 days, you've got to go spend a week with parent B, you're going to be resistant to that. You don't want to change who you are. And this is really uncomfortable for a young person. They can't do this. This child wants to love both parents, wants to share his life with both parents. And knowing that your parents don't like each other keeps this from happening. If one of these parents becomes informed as to what's really happening, they behave differently. They say things like, "Oh, you're so lucky to have a dad like your dad. You and dad have so much fun together. I love when you go to dad, you come back, you tell me these stories about all the fun you've had." If a parent is behaving in that way, expressing the fact that the child should love being with the other parent, that gives the child permission to talk about the fun things he or she does with the other parent. When they become 16 years old, let's say, and they have they're driving, they tend to choose the place that they want to live. The kids usually choose the parent that made it okay for them to love the other parent, not the one that's been either deliberately or accidentally alienating them.
We recognize that there's going to be substantial changes in the child's life, and we try to mitigate those changes as best we can, and that can be somewhat difficult sometimes, but ultimately what we're trying to do is make sure that the child's life, if I can, should change as little as possible, whether that means maintaining extracurricular activities, their circle of friends, the school that they're attending, whatever we can to accomplish as best we can, as little change as possible, recognizing the fact that there is going to be significant change. When a parent comes before me, or two parents come before me, they need to be a united front, essentially, with respect to their children. And they may not even realize it, but oftentimes they actually are. And so I try to let them know that, in fact, they are a united front, that they are agreeing, even though they may have numerous disagreements on everything else, but they are, in fact, agreeing that they want what's best for their children and their child.
One of the things I try to stress to parents when I have the opportunity, before it happens, is the importance of a smooth transition for the children going between one parent to the other. Now, I try to stress to parents, typically these transitions, especially in the beginning, it's the first time that the children are going to have to go between their parents. Now, they lived their whole lives in one home with their parents together, and now they find themselves in completely uncharted territory, going between their parents. Put yourself in your kids' shoes for a little while and just think about how they must feel. It makes sense to do transitions at natural times, from school, from one transition to another. It may be easier for parents to pick the children up at school and then take them on their way, and then the parents aren't together. That's one thought. children pick up cues. If they see parents arguing and fighting or tense during these times, they're going to feed off of that. It's not going to make them feel good. I assure the parents of that. The children didn't ask for this, and their interests come first before everybody else's interest. Pick transitions times that make sense for your children.
Sometimes I feel like I caused them to break up because kids are a big responsibility.
Children of all ages will grieve the death, the loss of the family unit that they knew, and the relationship that they had with people within that context. And grieving is a natural sorting process that allows us to heal, and it's very important for parents to breathe and listen to their children and what their children may be crying about, complaining about, yelling about is not a personal attack. They're just expressing themselves. And that's hard to listen to. Children of all ages actually need to understand that their parents continue to love them and they're getting divorced, but their love for their children continue.
Once parents separate, the composition of the family changes. And for the children, it's important to remember that their family still includes both mother and all mother's extended family and close friends, and father's extended family and close friends. And children are entitled to have that continued relationship with both sides. And we all know that as time goes on, and hopefully parents are very mindful to have things go slowly in terms of introducing a new person into the household with their children, but that as time progresses, parents who are fit and proper will make good decisions about introducing their child or their children to other individuals, whether they be friends or individuals that a romantic interest has developed. And that is the natural course of events in many, many families. And that complicates matters, if you will. It increases the extended family. And it's not impossible, but it requires more effort. And that relationship now may be with step parents, it may be with other step siblings, or there may be new half siblings if it's a young family and there are other children. And so this is something that will be addressed as you go forward. And hopefully, if as parents you hone the skills of being able to come together and make good decisions for your children. And that is not always easy. It requires putting yourself second. If you're able to do that, then you're able to meet these changes as they occur and allow your children to have the relationship with a whole host of individuals that they're entitled to be with.
We want to make sure we maintain all those healthy and loving bonds that those children and child have maintained for years, whether it be a grandparent or an aunt and uncle. And the more people that love that child, the better. So we want to make sure that those traditions are maintained, but we understand that those traditions can change, and that's okay. We can still have new traditions that are enjoyed in both households, and as long as those loving family members are there, then that's something that is a good thing, and a new change, which is a positive change. But at the same time, sometimes, in some cases, some parents may make disparaging remarks, either knowingly or unknowingly, in the presence of the child about the other parent. They may allow family members or extended family members to do it, permit them to do it, again, knowingly or unknowingly. And it's really that parent's responsibility to ensure that that does not occur. they're responsible for essentially the comments that are being made by their relatives or friends about the other parent. And so they are obligated, when the child is in their care, to ensure that the child is not present and doesn't hear those remarks.
I do recognize how painful and hellish it can be when a relationship breaks up. And I also know that it is very possible for a couple to get through the acrimony and do what's best for them and their family. That's what I think mediation provides, is that space for the couple to come and meet and acknowledge what was, look ahead to what will be, and then between them come to terms with what each of them wants, what each of them needs, in what way can each of them actually leave the relationship feeling like they didn't give up something. Every divorce does not have to be ugly. There is such a thing as a good divorce. I sincerely believe in that concept of a good divorce, that a marriage or a committed relationship can end, but your children's hopes and dreams for a family life that's financially and emotionally secure, that can be done. A child is entitled to feeling like they have a family.
Coming to court is an eventuality for many parties that are separating, whether it's at the outset or if there are changes down the road and mediation is not successful through co-parenting counseling. You've tried other ways to resolve issues, and you will ultimately, in some instances, land before the court. So what do you expect? Well, there will be, as much as the court tries to address issues in a timely fashion, by necessity there may be delays. It is often a time-consuming issue. One party may seek a lawyer, and that will require time. It's something that can be costly if you have attorneys, and if it turns into a true hearing or trial, then the parties have to familiarize themselves with the rules of procedure and follow the due process rules of procedure in order to be heard. And they may need legal assistance quite often to navigate that. We always say, don't bring your children to court. They're the adults. You leave your children out unless your children are of an age, 14, 15, 16, where the court would say, well, their preference, the child's preference based on their intelligence and experience, we want to weigh in on that.
The parents have the most knowledge and the most power to make this as painless as a process for this child as possible. I don't know your child the way that you do. I don't know what the child needs to be soothed when he or she is upset. Parents need to know that they have so much power over their children's future. There's nobody else in this world that's going to love this child the way that the two of you do. So no matter how you feel about each other, being able to come together and say, this is what our child needs. This is what would be best for our child, and putting aside your own feelings. You have the power to do that. You have the power to make these decisions and not have a complete stranger make the decisions for you. You know what is best for your child, and you know what's going to make your child happy and healthy.
My first priority is making sure that children are safe, both physically and emotionally. and that I'm going to take that perspective in everything that I do regarding their case. As difficult as it is, and as unpalatable as they may find it, they need to make these decisions for their family with one another. Now, when they can't do that, again, at the end of the day, I will do that, and I'll try to do the best job I can, but I just try to let the parents know the best decisions are made with the most information. They have the most information. It's much better for them to decide their future than to let me do that.
You'll never regret compromising a little bit to reach an agreement so that you can move forward. The goal is not only as separating parents that you're able to remain emotionally healthy for yourselves and move forward, but the goal is to really raise children that will be emotionally healthy throughout their lives. And that's what we're all here for, and that's what the goal is.